What is up, everyone? Do not adjust your television sets. It is truly I, Divine Intervention, your hostess with the mostest, back after a prolonged hiatus with All Elite Joker.
Yo.
We are here to bring you your regularly scheduled Wednesday evening programming, the AEW Dynamite recap and review. Yeah, good to be back. It's kind of surreal. I'm gonna be honest with you, Joker. How are you feeling being back in front of the good people?
Oh yeah, same. It's been a while. Apologize for technical difficulties among other things. But we are back and happy to be here and excited to start talking about our favorite episodic television programming.
Indeed, life happens, people, but we're back.
True that.
All right. We're just gonna get right into it. We had Dynamite in Norfolk, Virginia, hometown of previous world champion Hangman Adam Page. Thoughts and prayers out to Adam Page, by the way, for those who have been following along even in our absence. Suffered a pretty serious injury last week on Dynamite. We were not able to cover it, obviously, but want to wish him nothing but healing energy. Scissor me daddy. Absolutely.
Concussions are very serious. We hope he takes all the necessary precautions. I think Adam Cole is also out from a concussion. So hope he gets all the treatment that he needs and all the time that he needs. Very serious. Shout out to, since we weren't able to cover it last week, shout out to the medical staff, as well as definitely Paul Turner, the ref, for noticing the tail signs. He was out for a couple seconds. But yeah, just shout out to the staff jumping in when they did and taking care of what they need to take care of. And also to MJF and Mox for being able to keep the ball rolling for another additional 9 minutes that they weren't intending.
Yeah, man, that was pure magic. And certainly leading up to some of the things that we will discuss this evening. MJF calling his shot, saying he's not going to cash it in like a coward, and he's planning to cash in his poker chip at Full Gear for the AEW Championship. Indeed. Welcome back. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome back. Thanks. And welcome back to you guys too. I mean,
it's a movement.
Obviously would not be here every Wednesday if not for you fine people. So welcome back to all of you as well. We've missed you. But yes, we will get into MJF and Moxley and all the goings on here in just a minute. We actually started the evening with some other members of the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, take on Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia, of course, the Ring of Honor World Champion and Pure Champions, respectively. Yuta getting a lot of love in this match. And just in general, like a lot of people are really behind Yuta right now. And I couldn't be happier because, of course, when he first came on the scene, for all of you super fans of our show here, we've talked about how Yuta has had quite the rise to fame from, cheering just that guy, nobody even really knowing his name or just completely not cheering for him at all, to now like no matter where he goes, not just his hometown, there's a bunch of people who really love him.
Oh yeah, I mean, shout out to him. And we always ask what the disconnect was, with Wheeler Yuta and the crowd, because I mean the man's been very consistent as far as like his wrestling is concerned, but in AEW, the biggest issue that we see with a lot of talent is that pretty much everybody in AEW can wrestle. And what really sets you apart is how much you connect with the crowd and what you can do on that mic, either or in conjunction with each other. So I'm glad that he's finally found what works for him, got that little bit of spark, a little bit of edge to him. And yeah, man, great match by all of these gentlemen. Like you said, former Ring of Honor and Pureweight champions versus each other, versus the current. Great match, great overarching storyline that we have going with, all of the inner working pieces, including Danielson, who we see later on. And yeah, just really good match, always
of course,
amazing
Hager
to see.
with the distractions.
And
I
his
mean, him and
purple.
his purple hat.
I'm so glad he gets his hat. Like him screaming, "I like the hat" into the camera was a week or two ago was just absolutely hilarious. And was like, well, I guess he just likes the hat, which is pretty much what we had been saying.
I need a new outfit every week in purple.
Just
And I need them completely mismatched. Like I want a whole purple suit and the hat.
oh yeah, like I need him in like just like a 3-piece, but without the jacket. So just the vest and everything, but the hat. And then another week with him in his gear, like his normal gear, but the hat. Like I need him to literally always have that hat on.
I think it's going to be his new thing. Also had a very interesting I call it the Superman swing because he had Garcia up on his shoulders with Jericho down in the swing. Like Claudio's a strong man.
That man, like when you say pound for pound, like Claudio does not look like he should be able to do half of the stuff that he does.
Mm-hmm.
And just every time I see him do something and like this, because the swing in itself is a pretty good feat. I mean, it may look easier than it actually is. And then to add on a whole nother person on your shoulders while you're doing it and still get the same amount of momentum. Again, Jericho's not a small guy.
Right.
You know, so like him swinging Jericho with Garcia on his shoulders, just absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Claudio.
Claudio comes away with the actual pinfall.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, BCC beats out the JAS. And we'll get into it a little bit later, some of the aftermath with that. But actually, not too much later because we really pretty much go straight into part of the aftermath. We cut backstage. Hager's hat will be a huge fact. I hope that we don't build a storyline around the hat, if we're being honest. But I think the hat is already over on its own. Like the fact that it's just continuing to make its appearance subtly. I don't know if I need anything more from the hat. But obviously utilizing Renee to the best of her talents pretty much right off the bat, because they've had her in a lot of interview segments and like promo segments and everything, which I think is very cool. Mm-hmm. And she's far more mobile than Tony Schiavone or Jim Ross. No shade, but they're both very old men.
They are both in their 70s.
Yes. But we shoot backstage. Danielson's having an interview with Renee, and he's pretty much upset about everything. For those who did not see last week, Yuta's kind of getting pissed off with Danielson as far as everything going on with Daniel Garcia. A lot of back and forth between the BCC and the JAS, as it were. And basically, he's going to take out all his frustrations on Sammy in their match tonight. And Yuta interrupts the interview and says basically that I won my match. Where you at? They definitely have some serious beef. And the last thing I'll say about it is happy birthday, Wheeler Yuta. Woo.
Woo.
I'm sorry. One last thing. This is important, and we're going to circle back on this. Put a pin in it. Remember, Claudio says that after the Bryan Danielson match, the Blackpool Combat Club is all going to sequester themselves to have a conversation about the beef that's going on between Yuta and Danielson.
Yes.
Yes, this is very, very important, people. Prime breadcrumb time. Joker, I know the BCC has been a favorite of yours since its inception. How are you feeling now that we are on the other side of some pretty turbulent times?
Well, interested to see where we're going to continue to go here, especially with how everything has turned out on this evening, which we will continue to get into. I kind of agree with Ruben. I do wish that he had a little bit longer of a run. I feel like Claudio could have definitely given a lot more to the championship. I feel like he could have wrestled. I mean, you can put Claudio with pretty much anybody, and he's going to have an amazing match because he's Claudio. And yeah, man, I'm wondering where we're going with this because you don't have turbulence for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, especially pending certain circumstances to how things turn out at Revolution, Jesus, Full Gear, excuse me.
Jump with the gun there, Joker.
Hey man, I love me my AEW pay-per-views.
It's true.
Pay-per-views. Anyway, but yeah, can't wait to see where we're going with this, especially since everybody won their matches, which we'll get into more. But the boy has gotten quite the mouth on him, and I'm assuming it's going to lead to a match at some point. So interesting what the point of the match is going to be and all of these types of things and where we're going to go from here. If we're going to start dissolving a little bit or, ruse. I don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
It's going to be interesting because, hypothetical, MJF and Mox are he wasn't even supposed to be here right now. He was supposed to be on vacation. And while, he has definitely strapped up the boots and, put the company on his back for the time being. Yeah. I mean, even with Renee just making her appearance and everything, going into the holidays, I'm sure that they can cut some time away where she could do some like pre-recorded things or, whatever. So I see a vacation in his future. Yuta and Danielson, after they have it out, does the BCC stick together? Do they kind of go off and do their own thing until Moxley comes in? Like, I don't know. I'm also very curious how this is all going to shake out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I do think MJF's going to take it off of him.
Mm-hmm. But it's time.
It's definitely time, especially with extenuating circumstances that we were definitely going to speak on more later on in due time.
Yes, we will discuss everything toward the end. But keeping this train rolling, we have finally seen, speaking of turbulence, the Elite back on our television screens. It was a very brief promo. I wouldn't even call it a promo. It was a video package of, the Elite. They were on the screen, and it was pretty much only highlighting times from the very, very early days, like when they first made the announcement that AEW was even going to be a thing, to I think that Them in the Green was that first pay-per-view that they put on. And the concept of the video package was very interesting because it would like flash them on the screen and then it would have them like fizzle away or like burn away. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what the symbolism here is, but this is the first time that we have seen the Elite actually on our screens since All Out, basically.
Yeah, they mentioned them last week, and this is the first time we've actually seen them and heard the Elite. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they said the Elite last week, but like this is like the first time we've actually seen them. But I'm very interested in see where it's going because, like you said, all it was just clips of them. But as the clips would go on, they would fizzle and fade away. But we never really got anything after that. So I'm wondering, what are we? Is this just saying, hey, we're coming back or something more?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting people talking. And I think that WWE and AEW are both trying to utilize tactics that, utilize this social media era and get people talking online about, but not buzzwords, but little clips, everything that they did with Bray Wyatt's return. And all the little clips that they had there. I don't know if this is like the start of a series or, like maybe next week they show them in the next era of AEW, like when they're first winning all the belts and everything. Like, I don't know. It could be very interesting all leading up to maybe a return at Full Gear. Don't blow all your load all at once.
Maybe. Can't tell.
Know. Hard to say. But if you've been with us for any length of time, we will just have to wait and see. Second part of the aftermath from our first match, we did end up getting an interview with the Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know if this faction can get any bigger, if we're being honest, because it's hard getting them all in the same shot at this point. Poor Tony looked so smooshed.
Right, just his little arm just kind of sticking out from behind and So many of them.
Yes. Obviously people are bringing their significant others and their friends and their friends' friends. So, all to appreciate Jericho. But in case you missed it, they were backstage with Tony Schiavone, and the Jericho Appreciation Society were basically very upset about the loss that they suffered at the beginning of the show. Jericho is issuing an open challenge to any and all Ring of Honor champions. He said, men, women, he doesn't care, women's champions. So he's going to beat up ladies. I'm already calling it now. He's going to be a female champ. Mickey James? Who knows? Ooh, Jordan Grace. Was she ever in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, she was in Ring of Honor.
That would be.
It was before she was her current form.
Well, I feel like AEW has a lot of working relationships, so I mean, we could see just about anybody if we're being honest. The only thing I will say is, of course, during the segment, severe audio problems, so it's kind of hard to hear what all the nooks and crannies of what Jericho was saying, but essentially, they're upset. He's issuing an open challenge, and we'll see who takes the bait. Any guesses? I gave one.
The problem is that there's so many.
I know.
You've got, you could do a surprise return for somebody, because, when you're talking Ring of Honor champions, Adam Cole was a Ring of Honor champion. Samoa Joe you could use. There's plenty of people in AEW as well as people who aren't in AEW. Hell, they could bring back Jonathan Gresham if he feels like doing it. You know what I mean? So,
right.
There's a lot of different people that you could utilize as former Ring of Honor champions, whereas people who were there, and AEW is not afraid to bring somebody in literally for a week just for one match. So like we saw with Bandito, we've seen it before, but sky's the limit.
Agreed. Interesting comment here. Ring of Honor would be better in WWE's hands. They have a video library on Peacock. You can put some matches there. Because Tony hasn't laid out a specific roadmap for what is to become of Ring of Honor, I would have to agree in a way. It's nice that there are people who have been given belts to, further storylines and continue the legacy that is Ring of Honor. But since there's not going to be any kind of show in the near future, they're putting on, 2 pay-per-views a year. Mercedes Martinez has had that belt for God knows how long and defended it none.
I'd say 3 times.
So I don't want to talk bad about what Tony Khan has been doing for the promotion, but if you're talking specifically of preserving the legacy and how do you put that on a format that's easily accessible, I kind of agree that WWE's partnership with Peacock would be the perfect platform for that.
Yeah, and to piggyback, of course, also, yes, definitely I think it would be better in Hunter's hands than Vince's. I believe Hunter wanted to purchase it a while back before when Vince was still in power, and Vince, shot it down. But
Dad, can I use my allowance to buy Ring of Honor?
No, it's not good shit. Even though half our people came from there. I'm just saying, really, you could have done some amazing things with Ring of Honor if it had WWE. I'm just saying, you got Kevin still there. Seth was Tyler Black when he was in Ring of Honor. El Generico as in Sami Zayn. You've got some serious heavy hitters that have been through Ring of Honor. I just wish WWE could play nice with people.
Right.
They just keep proving that they will have some weird reason as to why they just won't play well with people. Most recently with the Carl Anderson stuff, there's been speculation between the whole Billy Gunn situation as far as for the reunion special. And it's just we could make some beautiful, beautiful wrestling if we could all play together, but that's neither here nor there.
Capitalism, baby. No way.
What was next?
Swerve in Our Glory versus FTR for the number one contendership for the tag titles.
Oh, yes.
This was the sleeper of the night, people.
Match of the night.
Hands down, match of the night. Absolutely amazing. Super interesting how they are having to re-navigate certain storylines again after the turmoil that happened at All Out. The Guns of the Firm were cosplaying FTR in the front row, had their cardboard cutout titles. What was it? Austin had a bald cap on with a mustache. Crying, absolutely crying. Meanwhile, the Acclaimed were seated at the top of the ramp on folding chairs. So, I mean, you had a full audience all the way around.
And everyone loves the Acclaimed.
Indeed. Keith Lee, of course, surprising people, leapfrogged over FTR, which was an absolute spectacle. Dax and Swerve just counter after counter, just rolling over and over and over each other. Every time I thought one had the upper hand, it just like too much going on. So many near falls. They kept panning to the Guns and to the Acclaimed, and both of them looked stressed. Austin looked stressed.
You know, one thing I really appreciate is like watching AEW wrestlers watch matches. They legitimately are sitting there watching matches and like seeing them react the way that, you know, pretty much all of us react to matches. That's one of the reasons I love when Ricky Starks is on commentary, because you just get his raw, natural reaction to things. And I feel like watching the Guns, who are just extra expressive, especially in their cosplay, those two are a delight.
Yeah, I mean, even from the empty arena era, I fell in love with the Gun Club and their antics. So, you know, regardless of what they're up to, they are just a pair of fools that will always steal the show, if nothing else, by making you laugh.
Oh, yeah, always good for a good laugh, just like their papa.
Indeed. First time Max Caster didn't rap. Yeah, that is very interesting. But at the same time, it wasn't about them. So I'm glad that they didn't, steal the spotlight. I'm sure we will probably see them for Rampage, if we're being honest. So we may see a rap then. But it was a good match overall. Very, very interesting, like I said, because of course it seemed pretty straightforward that Sneaky Swerve was trying to have his heel turn, and that's what I'm going to call him from now on. I'm sorry. I love it. I love Swerve, but Sneaky Swerve is just makes me laugh every time.
Just imagine him with his little creep hands.
I mean, you've seen the entrance, right?
I mean, yeah.
He just is sneaking about. But anyway, low blow from him. Ref distraction by the Guns, because of course the Gun Club's holding Cash Wheeler against the barricade while Dax had his yam bag rearranged. Swerve in Our Glory with the win. They are our new confirmed number one contenders. Do with that what you will. Some people will call it cheating. I call it strategy. But complete pandemonium afterward. I mean, all four teams are obviously intertwined at this point. So it's going to be very interesting what comes of this. Like, you know, what is the tag scene going to look like? Because obviously Swerve in Our Glory won the number one contendership from FTR. But if you look at just the numbers, FTR should be first in line. So I don't know. I don't know where the Guns really come into all this. I mean, they're just goofy, so they're just there. But
I was about to say, you always got to have your fall guys, which I feel like the Guns are definitely that. And it's okay if you have your fall guys who are very entertaining, because they can always fall back on the fact that they are entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Danhausen. I mean, Danhausen wins matches and things on Dark and Elevation and things like that. And Rampage from time to time. But for the most part, when he's on, he's there to lose, but people don't care because he's extremely entertaining, which the Guns, I feel like, are finding their footing to where they're becoming more widely accepted and amusing.
Indeed.
Thank you, Jack. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Glad to be back. Happy to be back. New rig and whatnot.
Indeed. Saraya. Saraya?
Ray.
Okay. Every time
Saraya.
I'm look, because she's a ray of sunshine to the women's division. Something like that.
Not to Britt Baker, but yes.
Yeah, look. Anyway, another interview with Renee this evening. Renee also looking extra spicy, I'm just saying. Like, she always looked good in WWE because she's a very well-dressed woman. But I feel like now she's able to kind of bring the edge back to her. She's looking good. I'm just saying. Just putting it out. But yes, Saraya interview, super amazing. Britt Baker interrupts. She's not happy. She's not been happy since she made her debut. These two are going to definitely go off on each other, probably at Full Gear.
I'd imagine. Seems like where we're going.
Yeah. Essentially, they're talking all over each other. Saraya, Britt walks in, screen. Just don't even start with me, bitch.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood. That was before she could say a single thing. Like, I think Britt started to say something, and Saraya just went off. And the two of them going back and forth, and Renee, enough. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly.
Okay, Mom.
All right, fine. Saraya's jacket, just side tangent, was absolutely outstanding. Just throwing that out there. It was very nice. Like the two-tone studs. Just throwing that out there.
There's a lot of beautiful women in AEW right now.
Sure are.
And the list just keeps getting longer and longer. I mean to tell you.
That Twitter post Jade made today.
Can't handle it. My queen. Anyway, MJF had an interview next with Renee. Renee's a busy woman tonight. I'm sorry. The Moxley impression that he did was absolute gold. Because, of course, I'm sitting there biting my nails because I'm like, oh my God, what fucked up thing is MJF about to say
about this man's
Moxley's wife?
Right.
Yes, I'm just like, oh my God. Because if it was, I mean, Tony, obviously he's got beef with Tony, so it's not a huge deal, but I'm just like, what is he gonna say to Renee? Oh my God. For the most part, it was relatively tame, for being honest, but that's because I think he's kind of on the good guy streak right now.
That, and I feel like if he were to legitimately say anything ill about Renee, John would also legitimately shove his shoes down his throat. So
yeah, it's
he just shelved Hangman on accident. So I don't know if I would be messing with him or I definitely wouldn't be messing with his wife.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But of course, Renee asking MJF how he's preparing for such a monumentous match, and MJF just goes into this absolutely brilliant impression of Moxley, grunting around the ring. I'm
gonna drink your blood. I'm gonna gargle your piss. I'm gonna, you know why? Because I'm John freaking Moxley. Like,
absolute gold.
Mox is the patron saint of all Johns, and I'm a John myself. And probably my favorite wrestler in AEW, especially, since I count Mox as a day oneer because he's been there since the original Double or Nothing.
I agree.
But I digress. I love Moxley, but that was so funny. Okay, Max has this brilliant thing, and it kind of reminds me of when I don't know, for those of you who were watching at the time, Dolph Ziggler once upon a time did this thing where he was imitating a bunch of different wrestlers and doing their entrances and like mannerisms and things, and it was absolutely hilarious.
Funny.
It was so funny. And Max, like anything else that he does, full sends on this promo as Moxley. It was absolutely just hilarious.
It's gonna be on YouTube by tomorrow. I guarantee it.
It has to be.
It is totally worth
checking
it out. It is hilarious. But essentially kind of clarifying some things from last week. Speaking of last week, that promo that he cut on William Regal. Oh my God.
And the one Regal cut back.
Yes. Again, one of those things, we could sit here and talk about it for several minutes, but would never be able to do it justice. I'm sure it's online somewhere. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. But he said he was going to win clean, which of course is very uncharacteristic of MJF. And so he clarified that it's only going to be kind of clean. The only thing he's really promising is he's not going to use his version of the brass knucks. He's not going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring at Full Gear. He is going to, because he says he doesn't need it. And so essentially Stokely interrupts at the end, and MJF tells him that Moxley is not to be touched or the firm is fired. Essentially because he wants to win it and not give the Blackpool Combat Club the room to have anything to say. Which makes sense, from his perspective. He's not a flat out good guy, so he's not doing it out of the kindness of his heart. But I get why he would have such a hard stance on, especially with Full Gear only a couple weeks away at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, not only the Blackpool Combat Club, but especially Regal, because, based on the promo and the story that he told last week, Max is Max because of Regal.
Right.
He does everything he's done, the villain that he's become, everything was because of Regal. Regal set him down this path. And the biggest thing that he said in his promo was, the thing that stood out to him was the fact that Regal said he didn't need the brass knuckles, implying that Max needed them. Mm-hmm. That it was a crutch, that it was something that he needed, that he couldn't be himself without having the extra help. And him saying, no, I'm not going to use them, is just everything he's doing and continues to do has all been because of Regal.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of feeling like a beautiful, especially with the way that Max's character is going. If he truly does beat Mox, cleanly without the help of the diamond ring or anything like that, but still keeps that villain mentality, I truly feel like this is a passing of the torch moment, which we've seen a good number of these in AEW so far, but like another true passing of the torch moment of turning Max into the William Regal, because while a lot of them have said Flair, William Regal is one of the greatest heels of all time. And while Max can cut a promo like Flair, I would want to be held in the regard of Regal, personally. Uh-oh, technical difficulties. Well, seems like we're having some technical difficulties at the moment. About my notes. Be right back, folks. Give me one quick second.
So you want to go to best drama on the show. So there's so many to choose from. You go first, brother. I went first last week. What do you got?
But one show that I think is more popular, right? It is more known because of how long it's been on. It's still going strong today. Is Law and Order SVU. And I will challenge you. I don't even watch this shit. But I challenge you to pick a better, more popular show than this show that's still going strong today and has been for over 2 decades.
I'm gonna one of the most popular shows of all time in television, because it should have went with ER. And I might have said you won this, but you chose SVU. We get tired of seeing these bullshit stories and these sad things. But right here, with Dr. McDreamy, Dr. McSexy, Grey's Anatomy, I seen somebody have the hiccups and almost die. Give me Grey's Anatomy over SVU and all the different renditions they've had, by the way.
Thank you. Sorry about technical difficulties. I got my notes out. All right, where were we? Oh, yeah, talking about MJF. So, yeah, I really feel like we can go in a direction where MJF is, of course, the first MJF, but my man's is going to be at that point where he can feud. I mean, I feel like he already can, but it's definitely going to be one of those people you can put with pretty much anybody, and magic's going to happen. Okay, so after that, we had Garcia and I'm sorry, not Garcia, Guevara versus Danielson. Bruh. Sammy Guevara. I wish Sammy wasn't so problematic because he's a really good wrestler, right? But I can't get with the stuff that he does with Ty, like Ty, whatever. Miss Mello. I just can't get with what the overly. It's unnecessary. It's go away heat. It's not. I don't. It's not witty. I appreciate good storytelling and things like that. There's no storytelling there. But great match. Danielson, of course, got his pep talk from Mr. Yuta and Mr. Castagnoli before the match. They had an amazing match. Beautiful butterfly suplex, a couple of suplexes outside. There was one point where Danielson went for, I think, he was going to go for a running knee on the apron and got absolutely just clobbered by Guevara, like just straight in the mush with a rising knee. And I was pretty concerned with that, but it worked out pretty okay, I guess. Tons of counters. You had Sammy hitting a standing Spanish fly, which is one of his specialties. Sammy went for the heel route and hit Danielson with his own running drop kicks in the corner. But eventually Danielson hits him with the Psycho knee, hits him, stomps him out, gets him in a choke. Danielson wins. Like I said, great match. After the match, you've got Renee in the back with Ray Phoenix and Alex Abrahantes. And Phoenix talking about how he wants to be a double champion, just like Pac. And he's like, I think I'll go for the AEW All-Atlantic title next. At that moment, of course, Christian, who can smell controversy a mile away, walks up and is like, hey, I don't know if you heard me, but I said Luchasaurus is going to go after everybody who's got gold on them. So get to the back of the line. And, of course, Orange Cassidy is like, I like fighting everybody and putting no effort in. So let's do this. So I guess we're getting a triple threat again. with Orange Cassidy for the All Atlantic title. All Atlantic title seems to be like a lot of fun. I appreciated the fact that Pac went and defended it in places like I think he did in Rev Pro a couple of times. He was overseas with it a lot. Hopefully we get to see Orange Cassidy do the same. But I am appreciative that that is a title that is being defended pretty consistently. So I'm down for it. I mean, Ray Fenix, I will watch any match that Ray Fenix is in. Plus, I feel like there should be a good match between these guys because we've seen countless matches between the former Jurassic Express and the Lucha Brothers. So very excited to see where this all goes. Then it was latest time. Had Jamie Hayter with Dr. Britt Baker and Rebel DMD versus Riho, who came back last week to everyone's surprise and the chagrin of one Dr. Britt Baker and her associates. Great match. Riho is always really good at doing these matches where she's the smaller opponent, where she's definitely the smaller opponent because Jamie is, I believe, I think 6 inches taller than her and about 40 pounds heavier. Great match. Riho trying to get the strikes in, doesn't too hot because obvious reasons, but gets the speed up. Does all the crazy Riho type things. I love how Jamie jumps into when she takes crossbodies, and it's not just Riho's, it's just anybody's in general. It adds to the slam when she lands. Always makes for a great hit, as well as her ability to sell. We saw a beautiful code red between those two. Riho always out here doing great things. Glad to see her back. But Jamie gets the win here, which I don't know. Please let me know how you guys feel about it. I think Jamie getting the win here might have been the better option. Riho did just come back, so I'm sure plenty are going to feel a certain type of way about that. But I feel like Jamie has this momentum going, and you got the whole thing with her and Britt and her and Tony, and then you have Tony come out at the end. So I feel like that's going to be our match. This is our next match as far as, the history between Hayter and Tony Storm. I want to see Jamie Hayter win the title. I feel like she deserves it. She's come back. Like, she was here early on. She left. She came back. She's done nothing but move up and get over. And I feel like she could be a very good heel champion, especially with Britt in her corner. And you could always do something with her and Britt further down the line, even because they continue to just tease that and just tuck that right in there. But let me know who you guys think, please. Who should be the next women's champion? At least till Thunder Rosa can come back. Next up, man, Renee wasn't quite the busy woman. We have another Renee segment with Eddie Kingston, who seems to be very agitated. Shout out to me, man's Eddie Kingston. He was less than excited to be giving the interview. He lets Renee know, hey, let's not talk about me because she asked about him. It's like, everybody, I'm fine. Let's talk about my homie Moxley. Mox has a match tonight. I think, he's going to have his hands full with Penta because that's also his boy. But he's like, Penta, you're my dog. But I think Mox got it because, it's Mox. Also, everybody, leave me alone. I feel like something's building here. I can't wait to see what it is. Eddie seems to be on the verge of a mental breakdown, which, he always seems like he's on the verge of a mental breakdown, but it really seems like for a story, we are going somewhere with this. Hopefully, winds up with Eddie with some gold because I feel like Eddie deserves gold because everything Eddie says and does, I believe. I was legitimately sitting here like, I wonder if he's really all right. Like, I can't really tell with him, and that's the beauty of Eddie Kingston. He's just that good at what he does. Next up, we got ourselves a Darby Allin promo, which I really like these Darby Allin promos that he puts together himself with the black and white and everything, grayscale. It reminds me of some, vignettes and programs of old. And he explains, told Sting he wanted to prove himself. He wasn't happy with where he was at. And Jay Lethal has been saying he has an old friend. Darby says, bring your old friend who apparently knows what my weakness is. I already know what my weakness is. It's me. He's like, I have no disregard for myself or anything, for that matter. So bring you, your friend, and whoever else, and please enlighten me as to what my biggest weakness is. Very interested to see who this friend is. Darby always has great matches. Jay Lethal, again, always has really great matches. Jay's a great worker. Interested into why we're doing this again. Considering we just had this match a week ago. But I know a lot of things have been changed and turned around due to recent events and certain people having injuries and, people coming back and a lot of shuffling and shifting going on. So wait and see, can't wait to see who the person is on Dynamite next week, who's going to be, I guess, in the corner of Jay Lethal, along with Sanjay and Satnam. Perhaps another Ring of Honor person, perhaps another person from Impact. I have no idea. Maybe even just somebody coming back to AEW. I have no idea. That's one of the things that I really like about AEW. You never really know what you're going to get. Now that I sound like Forrest Gump, we're going to move on to Mark Henry's favorite portion, the main event. And we had the patron saint of all Johns, Jon Moxley, versus Penta El Cero Miedo, one of my favorite luchadors in the world. Who, if you didn't get to see it, I highly suggest going back and looking at it. He had a mask versus mask match at Triple Mania this past weekend. Yeah. Versus Belano Cuatro. It was a beautiful match. Beautiful if you enjoy violence and a lot of blood. But just really great match. I love the mask versus mask matches, especially when, it's somebody's retirement match or anything like that. It's just a beautiful passing of, the torch and showing of respect. But it was a gnarly match. So if you're into Lucha Libre, Fight TV, check it out. It's really good. Triple Mania. But yes, on to the Mox and Penta match. Mox, as usual, where you start a Mox match outside. Penta was actually up for the most part on the outside, which is odd because that's, John's realm where he likes to stay. It's his bread and butter. He likes to beat people up out there. But you got a lot of offense from Penta. Some kicks, a lot of chops, a lot of hits. Ran him into the guardrail. Mox went to do a snap suplex, but Penta reversed and did his own snap suplex out on the outside of the ring. And then you had Mox hit him with a DDT onto the steel steps. And then we got back into the ring. Super kicks, topes, back out on the outside. Mox threw Penta throws Mox into the steel steps. Just a lot happens. Pulls on the mask. Mox hits an ace crusher out of nowhere. Pile driver. Very, very high octane, very heavy-handed match, which is pretty much what you're always going to get when you get a Moxley match. Penta hits one of his beautiful, beautiful sling blades, and I swear that man does the best sling blade in the business right now. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, so got a lot going on. King Kong Lariat. Mox hits him with it. 1, 2. Oh, we're not done yet. Fine. Penta gets ready to hit him with a destroyer. Then Mox plants his feet, kicks him, hits him with the paradigm shift, gets him back up, does the full lift up for the Death Rider. 1, 2, 3. It's over. Mox still your AEW champion, as it should be. Great match between these two guys. Had some moments where I was terrified because Penta nor John know how to hold back. Very stiff match, very good match. Wasn't really concerned with Mox losing, but we all knew it was coming towards the end based on the conversation that MJF had with Stokely earlier. And so, of course, all of a sudden, Mox is standing there, hand in the air. Firm comes down. Morrissey just drops Moxley with a big boot. Morrissey is a big dude. But yeah, the whole Firm comes down. They're just beating the ever-living hell out of Moxley. Then you go to the back. Alex Marvez is there with the camera crew, with some of the, refs. They're trying to get the doors open because the BCC is locked up. They're chained in. Got a big old, nice, healthy chain with a padlock on it. Ref goes, I'm going to go get bolt cutters. Never really see them. Moxley's back to the ring. Moxley's just getting beaten to stuffings, getting the stuffings beat out of him. Then you hear an eruption. You look up the ramp. It's MJF. He's pacing. He's walking back and forth. He's like, I should do something because, earlier in the night, he was like, hey, don't you do nothing to Moxley. If you do, you're fired. I want him at 100%, so nobody can say I took any shortcuts. I need this for me. They did it anyway. MJF takes his jacket off, drops it, and then walks back into the back. Everybody, oh, no. So back to Moxley getting beat up again in the middle of the ring, and then you just see a black blur, which is MJF and his all-black everything, flying down to the ring, peeling and punching everybody off, gets in Stokely's face, yells at him, you're fired. I told you not to do this. You're fired. But interestingly enough, it seemed like that is what Stokely wanted. Just based on the facial expressions that he was making, it seemed like it was kind of like the whole part of the plan, because then the whole firm just turned on MJF and beat the hell out of MJF next and put him through a table. And that's how we ended Dynamite tonight, which I have no idea what's happening anymore. I mean, stuff has been going to hell in a handbasket. As me and Divine had alluded to earlier, we've been gone for so long, so we haven't been able to speak with all of you lovely people. But yeah, no, this was Dynamite, and I had a really good time. I'd give it a solid 8. Moving storylines, pushing towards full gear. Interested in seeing what that Elite promo meant. Interested in seeing where we're going with MJF. It feels like we're going with a full face turn, which I feel like, if anything, we'll get an MJF version of a face. I don't feel like he'll be full, kissing babies and whatever else, baby faces do. I like heels more myself. But yeah, it was very interesting Dynamite. I can't wait to see what happens on Rampage. Can't wait to see what happens next week. And again, always shout out to Hangman Adam Page and his recovery, as well as any other wrestlers who are out on injury. Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and many more. And that's across promotions. That's not just in AEW, also for Big E and all of the other people who are having issues in WWE as well. Wish everyone a speedy recovery. Thank you for joining us. Sorry once again for the technical difficulties, but thanks as always for joining us. Enjoy your wrestling, and we will see you again real soon. Peace.